think about the sheer scale of human movement right now. Millions of people aren't just packing up for business trips or, sunny beach vacations. They're crossing the globe driven entirely by faith. It's a massive, frankly staggering testament to human devotion. So in today's Explainer, we're going to decode this phenomenon. We'll look at the macro-level impact of these sacred journeys, and then we're going to zoom all the way in on one extraordinary location in Telangana that perfectly captures this blend of ancient faith and modern travel. Here is our roadmap. We'll kick things off with the faith travel boom, look at economic power and preservation, and then confront the dark side of devotion. After that, we put our spotlight on the Srisailam Temple, jump into a practical pilgrim's guide, and wrap up with the future of sacred travel. All right, part 1, the faith travel boom. Just picture this number, 300 million. According to the UN World Tourism Organization, that's how many people travel globally every single year specifically for religious purposes. 300 million. So we're not talking about some tiny niche market here. This is a multi-billion-dollar global economy. It's an economy that literally shapes human settlement, cultural exchange, and diplomacy, from the days of the ancient Silk Road right up to modern commercial flights. Now, let's zoom in locally to Telangana. Check out this number, 13 million. That is the crowd size for just one event, the Madaram Jatara, back in 2022. It happens every 2 years, and it's recognized as Asia's largest tribal religious congregation. Imagine 13 million people gathering to honor the traditions of the Koya tribe. The sheer logistics, let alone the cultural magnitude of this one single event, it's just mind-blowing. But when we talk about this massive movement, we kind of need to draw a line between religious tourism and spiritual tourism, right? Religious tourism is generally doctrinal. It's tied to organized faith, very specific rituals, and sacred obligations, like a classic pilgrimage. Spiritual tourism, on the other hand, is way more experiential. It often crosses religious boundaries. We're talking wellness retreats, yoga centers, the search for mindfulness and inner peace. Both are absolutely booming, but they cater to slightly different human needs. Which brings us to part 2, economic power and preservation. Because when 300 million people are on the move, the ripple effects are monumental. The big takeaway here is the economic multiplier effect. When pilgrims show up, they need a place to sleep, they need to eat, they need transport, bam, instant hospitality and retail jobs. It actually forces governments to build new roads and airports. And since a lot of these sacred sites are pretty remote, this influx of cash revitalizes rural economies, meaning young people can actually find jobs in their hometowns instead of moving to the city. Plus, that revenue goes right back into funding the restoration of ancient heritage sites. It even acts as a surprisingly effective platform for informal interfaith dialogue. To kind of ground this in reality, you've got to hear about the Chilkra Balaji Temple in Hyderabad. It is famously known as the Visa Temple. Get this, it draws nearly 2 million pilgrims a year who are literally praying for visa approvals. Talk about a highly specific, modern twist on an ancient practice. And the revenue from those 2 million folks, it directly supports temple trust initiatives and rural development projects right in that area. It's just this perfect little micro-narrative of community-driven religious tourism. But look, it's not all sunshine and rural development. Let's shift to part 3, the dark side of devotion. We really have to ask, what happens to a sacred destination when faith meets unchecked over-tourism? There's a massive tension here. As our sources point out, commercialization of sacred spaces can diminish their spiritual essence, sometimes sparking resentment among local communities and religious authorities. Think about it. When a deeply spiritual experience gets packaged and sold like, a theme park ticket, it completely dilutes the authenticity people traveled so far to find, and locals end up feeling like their heritage is just being cheapened for a quick buck. And the physical consequences? They're very real. Overcrowding leads to intense environmental degradation. We're talking serious soil erosion and habitat destruction in places that are often super ecologically sensitive. Local sanitation and transit systems just get totally overwhelmed. Then you've got the whole commodification of sacred rituals, where aggressive marketing replaces quiet devotion. And honestly, having huge crowds at highly symbolic religious gatherings creates major security risks, which means heavy surveillance, which kind of ruins the peaceful vibe, right? So how do we actually balance all this? Let's move to part 4 and put our spotlight on a spectacular real-world case study, the historic Srisailam Temple, nestled in the Nallamala Hills. The religious gravity of Srisailam is practically unmatched in India. It is literally the only temple to serve as both a Jyotirlinga, which is one of the 12 sacred shrines dedicated to Shiva, and a Shakti Pitha, dedicated to goddess Parvati, sharing the exact same campus, under one roof. This dual status makes it an incredibly rare, deeply magnetic convergence point for millions of devotees. And the history here is just rich. We can trace inscriptional evidence all the way back to the 2nd century under the Satavahana dynasty. Fast forward a bit to the 14th and 15th centuries, the Vijayanagara Empire massively expanded the site. That's where we get those incredible Dravidian-style towers and carved halls that you see today. Then, by the 18th and 19th centuries, the local Chenju tribe was deeply integrated into the temple's actual daily rituals. Fast forward to today, and the Archaeological Survey of India is actively restoring it using traditional methods. It's basically a living, breathing museum of Indian history.
All right, part 5, a pilgrim's guide.
If you're actually planning a visit, timing is everything. Winter, so October to February, is definitely your best bet for cool weather, but it's peak season. You're going to see huge crowds, so for sure book early. Summer is way quieter, but it gets intensely hot, so you'll want to avoid being on the road midday. And then there's the monsoon season. It gives you this unbelievably lush green scenery, but just a heads up, those mountain ghat roads can get pretty risky with the heavy rains. Once you're actually there, getting a feel for the daily rhythm of the temple is key. The doors open bright and early at 4:30 a.m. That's your window for a little quiet time before the rush. By 6 a.m., the main morning darshan, the viewing of the deity, kicks off. Later on, at 5:20 p.m., you can catch the beautiful evening arti and Rajopachara rituals for both deities. And finally, the whole place closes up around 9 p.m. Knowing this schedule just makes navigating the journey so much smoother. But here's the thing, Srisailam isn't just about the temple walls. It's this incredible hub for eco-spiritual tourism. Right outside the shrine, you've got the Patalaganga for riverboating. There's the massive Srisailam Dam on the Krishna River. A quick trek takes you to the Mallela Tirtham Forest Waterfall. And honestly, my favorite part? The whole site is integrated with the Nagarjuna Sagar Srisailam Tiger Reserve. It's this amazing spot where spiritual devotion just seamlessly blends right into wildlife and environmental conservation. Which brings us to our final section, the future of sacred travel. So how do we make sure these magnificent, multi-layered sites actually survive the pressure of 300 million global travelers for the next 1,000 years? Well, the path forward absolutely has to involve community-led tourism. The local custodians of these spaces have to be at the decision-making table. We also need a genuinely fair distribution of the economic benefits to rural populations. To handle the over-tourism aspect, we're going to have to embrace tech, things like digital visitor quotas and time slot systems. And finally, getting green certifications for tourism operators will go a long way in protecting the natural heritage, like the tiger reserves we just talked about. Which leaves us with a final, kind of provocative question to chew on. Can a sacred space stay truly sacred if millions of people are paying to see it? It is a really delicate tightrope walk between preserving ancient spiritual integrity and harnessing the undeniable economic power of global tourism. So, next time you pack your bags for a journey of personal growth or devotion, keep that balance in mind. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I hope this deep dive gave you a whole new perspective on the complex, fascinating world of spiritual travel.